Browns insider goes off on Kevin Stefanski for snubbing Shedeur against Dolphins. Let's get one thing clear. This should have been Shedeur Sanders' moment. The Browns were in complete control. The Dolphins looked like they were sleepwalking through the second half. The scoreboard was lopsided. And yet, with every camera pointed toward the sideline, expecting the future of the franchise to finally get a few live action reps, nothing happened. Kevin Stefanski never sent him in. Not for a drive. Not for a handoff. Not even for a meaningless kneel down to close out the game.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Shedeur Sanders, the highly touted rookie quarterback who's had Cleveland buzzing since draft night, stayed strapped into his helmet like a museum piece. Fully dressed, fully ignored. And Browns fans? They've had enough. Because this wasn't just a coaching decision. This was a message. Whether Stefanski meant it or not, what he said with that snub echoed through the locker room, the front office, and the entire fan base. I don't trust Shedeur Sanders. And that's a problem. Let's talk about context here. This game wasn't close. It was the exact kind of situation every coach dreams of when they're trying to ease a young QB into NFL action. You've got a multi-score lead, the opponent is defeated, the defense is feasting, and the crowd is mellow. There's zero pressure. This is when you bring in the rookie. Let him take a few snaps. Let him feel the turf. Let him get hit just once. Let him throw a safe screen pass or two. You don't need fireworks. You need rhythm. Representative's confidence. Instead, Dillon Gabriel, a third-rounder who's had a decent start but is clearly not the long-term guy, stayed in the entire time. Like this was a playoff game. Like this win was hanging by a thread. It wasn't. And that's what makes Stefanski's decision so baffling. This wasn't about football. This was about control. Because let's not kid ourselves, Shedeur wasn't Stefanski's pick. That came from upstairs. The front office, ownership, whoever you want to blame, they saw what Shedeur brought to Colorado, saw the brand value, the swagger, the highlight reel throws, and they wanted in. They drafted Shedeur to change the narrative, to build buzz, to finally give the Browns a quarterback with national presence. And Stefanski? He's been lukewarm about it from day one. He talks about Shedeur like he's a third-string project, someone who needs time and patience and development. All fair words on the surface, until you realize that every opportunity to actually develop him has been passed over like a bad Tinder profile. This Dolphins game wasn't the first time Stefanski kept Shedeur sidelined, but it was the most obvious and the most insulting. And it raises the question, what exactly is Stefanski waiting for? Because if a 24-point lead in the fourth quarter isn't the time to test your rookie QB, then when is? What's the scenario he's holding out for? A perfect weather home game with a 30-point cushion and the opponent voluntarily benching their defense? Come on. He's not protecting Shedeur. He's protecting himself. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Stefanski is scared of what playing Shedeur will lead to. Because if Shedeur goes out there and looks electric, even for 2 drives, he knows the clock starts ticking on Dillon Gabriel. The media storm begins. The fans start chanting. The locker room buzzes. And Stefanski loses control of the narrative. So what does he do? He keeps Shedeur in a glass case. Labels him not ready. Pretends it's all part of some mysterious long-term plan. But we all see it for what it is, stalling. And here's where it gets even worse. By not playing Shedeur when it was safe to do so, Stefanski has now raised the stakes for when he does play. Whenever Shedeur finally takes the field, the pressure will be 10 times higher. He won't be easing in during garbage time. He'll be stepping in during a must-win game, with the fan base impatient and the media frothing. And if he struggles even a little, people will say he wasn't ready. But how could he be? Stefanski never let him grow. This isn't just a bad decision. It's coaching malpractice. And let's not forget what this does to Shedeur mentally. This is a guy who's been in the spotlight his whole life. He's the son of Deion Sanders. He was the face of a cultural movement at Colorado. And now, he's sitting on the Browns sideline like an afterthought. Not even allowed to stretch his legs in a blowout. You think that doesn't mess with a player's head? You think Shedeur's not sitting there wondering, why am I even here if I'm not part of the plan? That kind of doubt can fester. And if the team isn't careful, they're going to lose him before he even starts. And let's also talk about the message this sends to the rest of the locker room. NFL players watch everything. They see who gets reps. They notice who the coaching staff protects and who they trust. And when a first-round rookie, QB, with that much hype can't even sniff the field in a blowout, that sends a message. It says even if you're talented, even if you're the future, this team might not let you prove it. And that culture? That's how you lose young players. That's how you lose trust. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel is doing his best. He's steady, serviceable. But let's not sugarcoat it. He's not exciting. He's not dynamic. He's not someone who keeps defensive coordinators up at night. And he's certainly not the face of the franchise. But Stefanski is clinging to him like a life preserver, hoping he can squeeze out just enough wins to keep his seat from going nuclear. It's cowardly. And it's exactly why Cleveland can't have nice things. Now maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe Stefanski wants to give Shedeur the entire offseason to develop. Maybe he's waiting for next year. Maybe this year is just about learning the system. Sure. But if that's the case, why draft him so high in the first place? You don't use a premium pick on a quarterback if you're planning to hide him all season. Not in today's NFL. Not with how important quarterback reps are in year one. That's not how winning teams operate. Look around the league. C.J. Stroud? Starting. Anthony Richardson? Starting. Bryce Young? Starting. These teams drafted their guys and said, let's go. The Browns drafted Shedeur and said, let's wait and wait and wait some more. It's maddening. And the fan base knows it. That's why the frustration is boiling over. You can feel it in every podcast, every post-game radio show, every Reddit thread. Browns fans aren't dumb. They've seen this movie before. This is how quarterback disasters start. A team gets a promising young QB. The coach doesn't trust him. The reps are inconsistent. The messaging is murky. The player develops bad habits. The confidence drops. The blame game begins. And then boom, another name added to the infamous Cleveland QB graveyard. But Shedeur? He deserves better. He deserves a shot to grow. He deserves real snaps, not just scout team drills and polite sound bites and pressers. He deserves to be part of the plan, not just an emergency parachute in case the season falls apart. Because if the Browns don't handle this right, they're not just wasting a season. They're wasting a future. And for a franchise that's been starving for one since forever, that would be the most Browns thing ever. So what happens now? Does Stefanski finally give Shedeur a shot in the next blowout? Does he wait until the media forces his hand? Does the front office step in? Or do we drag this out for weeks until something breaks? Whatever it is, one thing's clear. And look, we haven't even talked about the public pressure yet, because it's not just fans yelling into the void anymore. This whole Shedeur Sanders situation is starting to snowball into something bigger. Local reporters are circling. National insiders are asking questions. Even former players have started chiming in on social media, wondering why a quarterback with this much hype is being hidden like state secrets. It's becoming a distraction. A real one. And here's the kicker. It didn't have to be. The Browns created this mess. They drafted Shedeur knowing full well what came with him. The spotlight. The media. The expectations. They leaned into it. They loved it when he was trending on draft night. They loved the jersey sales. They loved the Deion Sanders press bump. But now that it's time to actually use him, they're acting like he's radioactive. That's the Browns' problem in a nutshell. They're always chasing headlines, but they never want to manage them. You want a flashy quarterback? Cool. But you better have the infrastructure to support him. And right now, it looks like Cleveland brought a Ferrari into a garage that still hasn't fixed its broken door. And speaking of infrastructure, let's talk about the lack of a plan, because it's starting to feel like Stefanski's just winging it week to week. What exactly is the roadmap for Shedeur? If he's truly not ready, why not explain that in detail? Give people something. Say, we want to improve his footwork under pressure, or we're working on adjusting his release to NFL speed. Say something that sounds intentional. But instead, we get vague coach speak like, we like what Dylan's doing right now. Okay, but that's not an answer. Because this isn't about Dylan Gabriel. He's playing fine, no hate there. But this isn't about fine. This is about next level. This is about investing in the guy who could actually win you something down the road. Because here's the truth Stefanski won't say out loud. If Shedeur hits his ceiling, if he becomes what he could be, then Dylan Gabriel's fine becomes irrelevant overnight. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe Stefanski sees it too. Maybe he knows that the second Shedeur gets on the field and looks even halfway competent, there's no going back. And for a coach on the hot seat, that's terrifying. Because if your rookie plays well, suddenly people start asking why he wasn't playing sooner. Why he didn't get reps in Miami. Why the coach waited until his hand was forced. It's not just about winning games. It's about controlling the narrative. And Kevin Stefanski? He's gripping that narrative with white knuckles. The problem is, the more he squeezes it, the more it slips through his fingers. Now let's talk about the Deion Sanders factor, because you better believe that matters. Shedeur isn't just any rookie QB. He's the son of primetime. That name carries weight, expectation, legacy. You don't just draft a Sanders and pretend he's a normal backup. And Deion? He's not the kind of dad who's going to sit quietly and smile for the cameras while his son rides the pine. He's been quiet for now, but don't get it twisted, he's watching. And when he speaks, people listen. The Browns are one frustrated tweet away from this becoming a full-blown media firestorm. The kind that turns press conferences into interrogation rooms. The kind that eats a team from the inside out. And the crazy part is, all of this could have been avoided by giving Shedeur 10 minutes of football in a game you were already winning. That's all it would have taken to shut people up, to ease the pressure, to show the fan base there's a plan. Instead, they chose silence. And silence never satisfies Cleveland. This is a city that's starved for stars, for leadership, for something, anything to believe in. They were ready to rally around Shedeur. They were ready to make him the new face of the franchise. The dog pound was barking for it, and Stefanski muzzled it. He didn't just miss a moment. He killed momentum. Because now, even if Shedeur does get in next week, it won't feel like an opportunity. It'll feel like damage control. And that's on coaching. Now let's shift focus to something bigger than even this quarterback debate. Something that haunts the Browns like a bad dream they keep replaying. Fear of failure. You can see it in everything they do. Every roster decision. Every press conference. Every conservative fourth and one call. This team plays scared. Like every mistake is going to be the one that sent them back to 4-13. They overcorrect for the past. And in doing so, they sacrifice the future. They've been burned so many times that they've stopped playing to win. Now they just play to survive. And in a league that rewards boldness and innovation, survival mode gets you nowhere. Shedeur Sanders represents a leap. He represents risk. He represents hope. And right now, Stefanski is staring at that hope like it's a trapdoor instead of a ladder. But you can't build anything meaningful if you're always trying not to mess it up. At some point, you have to go for it. And if not now, then when? Because the longer you wait, the colder Shedeur gets. The colder the fans get. And the hotter Stefanski's seat becomes. And once the fans turn, you're toast. You think Cleveland is going to tolerate another year of quarterback controversy, vague explanations, and missed opportunities? Please. This fan base knows the game. They've been burned by every type of QB drama you can imagine. They can smell the same old story from a mile away. They've seen this exact playbook. Draft a shiny new quarterback. Don't play him. Watch the season unravel. Fire the coach. Repeat. And if Stefanski doesn't change course, if he doesn't own this mistake and make a pivot fast, then he's going to find himself right where every Browns coach eventually ends up. Out the door, with a fan base already daydreaming about who's next. And if that happens, then the decision not to play Shedeur in a blowout win over the Dolphins won't just be a footnote. It'll be the beginning of the end. So what's the solution? Simple. You don't need a full quarterback switch yet. You don't need to bench Gabriel tomorrow. You just need to show people that Shedeur exists, that he's in the plan, that you're not afraid to test him, that you're not going to waste an entire rookie year out of fear of a media cycle. Let him throw the ball. Let him fail even. Because failure is how quarterbacks grow. The real failure is keeping him locked in a glass case because you're afraid of what happens when he finally gets seen. Well, guess what, Kevin? He's already being seen. Everyone's watching now. So you can either lean into it, embrace the moment, and make this Shedeur era your turnaround story. Or you can keep playing scared and end up just another name on the Browns' long list of almosts and never was. Your move. If you thought the Shedeur Sanders situation was frustrating before, just wait until we zoom out even more. Because now it's not just about Shedeur versus Gabriel. It's about something bigger. This is about Cleveland's identity crisis. This team doesn't know what it is. Are they rebuilding? Are they contending? Are they buying into youth or clinging to veterans? Are they leaning into the future or terrified of it? The answer seems to change every week. And Shedeur is caught right in the middle. On paper, it looks like the Browns are trending up. They've got pieces. They've got a solid defense. The offensive line, when healthy, can hold its own. The skill positions are decent. There's enough talent to say, yeah, this team could be competitive. But here's the contradiction. Even as they talk about progress, the Browns are paralyzed by indecision. And you can't build anything sustainable that way. If you're truly committed to the future, that starts at the quarterback position. Period. That's the one guy who can't be treated like a maybe. You can't hedge. You can't say, well, we'll see where we are in week 9. You either believe in your guy or you don't. And right now, every move the Browns make, or refuse to make, says, we don't know yet. Which brings us back to Stefanski. Because let's be honest, the entire vibe around this team feels like a coach trying to survive the season rather than own it. And when survival is your coaching strategy, you make decisions that aren't about long-term success. They're about short-term protection. That's what this all boils down to. Kevin Stefanski is playing not to lose his job. And that's exactly why he's not playing Shedeur. Because deep down, he knows that if Shedeur thrives, the conversation shifts. It becomes about Shedeur's Browns, not Stefanski's team. And a coach who's already under pressure from the front office doesn't want to hand over the narrative to a 21-year-old rookie with swagger and name recognition. But here's the harsh truth. The narrative is already gone. Shedeur's name carries more weight than Stefanski's resume. The minute the Browns drafted him, the timeline changed. The expectations changed. The clock started ticking. You can't draft the son of Deion Sanders, let him walk into Cleveland with cameras and confidence, and then pretend he's some long-term developmental project. That's not how it works. That's not how anything in this league works. The NFL eats development projects alive unless you manage them properly, unless you give them a plan, unless you protect them by preparing them. And you don't do that by gluing them to the bench while the backup QB finishes off the Dolphins like he's auditioning for a lifetime contract. No, the way you prepare a rookie QB, especially one with this much potential, is by getting him in during low-pressure reps, by building up trust now, so that when the team really needs him, he's not stepping into chaos for the first time. But again, we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is the Browns ducking the spotlight they chose to step into. And let's just ask the question everyone's thinking, but nobody wants to say out loud. Would this have happened if it were any other quarterback? Seriously, if this were a different rookie, one without a famous last name, without the social media following, without the Deion aura, would he still be sitting this long? Would there be this much hesitation? Or is this exactly why Stefanski's being weird about it? Because Shedeur isn't just a quarterback, he's a brand. He's a headline. He's a statement. And some coaches don't like that. Some coaches want their locker room quiet, obedient, invisible. But Shedeur's never been invisible a day in his life. And that's why this friction feels personal. Not in an emotional way, but in a philosophical way. Shedeur is not a fit for a coach like Stefanski, who thrives in control the tempo, control the press mode. He's a personality, a creator. He wants to go, no huddle, roll out of the pocket, make something happen. And if the system won't bend to accommodate that, he'll break it or bolt. You think that kind of quarterback is going to sit for 2 seasons behind Dylan Gabriel, while Stefanski rotates the same 5 play calls every week? Absolutely not. And here's the real danger. If this friction continues to fester, if Shedeur keeps getting iced out, don't be shocked if it escalates into something the Browns can't contain. Because we've seen this movie before. We've seen young quarterbacks sour on franchises that mismanage them. We've seen agents start making noise. We've seen locker rooms divide over which guy to support. We've seen organizations implode over this exact issue. You don't need a full-blown controversy for it to be real. You just need a locker room where half the guys are saying, "Why isn't he playing?" and the other half are afraid to say it out loud. And right now, that's where Cleveland is headed. And again, it didn't have to be this way. This could have been a smooth transition. Shedeur could have gotten 2 series against Miami, thrown a couple of completions, built some confidence, won the crowd. It could have been framed as a smart, cautious move. We just wanted to get his feet wet. Done. Instead, it's now a national talking point. Instead of easing him into the game, they threw him into the drama. Now, his first snap will come with pressure, with hype, with judgment. And that's on coaching. But it's not too late. That's the only silver lining here. There's still time to write this. Still time to put together a plan. Still time to take control of the narrative before it eats them alive. It starts by being honest. Come out and say, yes, Shedeur is part of our long-term plan. Yes, we're working on specific things with him. Yes, we're going to get him in when the moment is right. And that moment is coming soon. Because right now, silence equals fear. Silence equals doubt. And Cleveland doesn't need more doubt. They need clarity. They need leadership. They need to feel like anyone in this organization knows what they're doing at quarterback. Because otherwise, this just becomes another name on the list. Another broken promise. Another almost in a franchise haunted by what-ifs. And Shedeur Sanders? He's too talented, too marketable, and too ready to be wasted on that list. So if the Browns want to avoid adding another chapter to their long-running QB tragedy, they need to act. They need to believe in the guy they drafted. And they need to start showing it. Now, before the clock runs out. Let me know in the comments. Has Shedeur been snubbed? Should Stefanski be on the hot seat? Are the Browns actually building something, or just pretending to? Tap subscribe, because if they keep playing scared in Cleveland, the quarterback drama might just outlast the season. And trust me, that's not a movie anyone wants a sequel to.